I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, February the 24th, brought to you in part by the new Nasogen, Bovolus Nasogen 3 PMH, the first and only intranasal vaccine with both viral and bacterial protection to effectively protect your cattle against IBR, BRSV, PI3, Pasteurella, and Manhemia. Go to unmatchedprotection.com for more information. Unrest boosts grains, and I'm talking about the unrest, of course, between Russia and the Ukraine, but at this time it's all-out war now. Russia has invaded the Ukraine and declared war against a much smaller adversary that they want back, and it's just a tyrant dictator that's a big bully coming in there and taking over another country that he believes that it should be his and to enrich himself. But it was just unrest on Wednesday. But on Wednesday night, that turned into full-fledged war. So we're going to see how that affects these markets. But why are they declaring war on them? Why do they want them? The same reason that they've always had these kind of things since the beginning of time. They want their natural resources. And in the last 50 years, that's mostly been oil, and they want their oil. And Ukraine also has other resources, and they grow crops and things, but it's really affecting our grains more than anything. Oil's been up some too, but it's affecting our grains a bunch. But now with the way that we make ethanol and things, the grains in turn affect your oil and vice versa, and also it has a lot to do with fertilizer, because the fertilizer costs have gone through the roof. But grains were sharply higher, especially your Kansas City hard red winter wheat, which they raise a lot of wheat in that part of Eastern Europe there, so that's going to be a big mover there for that. But how is it going to affect the rest of things? Well, it's hurt the feeder cattle more than anything, because that's the one thing that directly intakes that grain. But I would expect to see all your publicly traded markets down hard, except for some of your, like oil and things like that on Thursday here to finish out the week. But it depends on how bad this deal gets. This is going to be a bloody thing. This is not going to be one of those just to fly over and drop a few missiles here and there. If they're going to go in there and take that, the Ukrainian people, the citizens, are going to come out and fight hand to hand with some of these Russian soldiers. This is going to be a bloody, a lot of lives, a lot of destruction. It's going to be a mess. And that's not good for anybody, of course, but I don't think we've seen a war like this, and we haven't seen aggression like this from a mean dictator for a long time. It's kind of changed the rules on everything. It's an old school type of a war here, and it's going to cause us to have to pay even more for these inputs whenever we're raising cattle and raising crops and things like that. It's going to impact your farmers and your cattle producers as much or more than anybody, in this country anyway. But it's going to be a topsy-turvy deal, and we just have to hang on. But like Mr. Magoo said on Wednesday, just it's everybody's going to have to pay their price. And I guess if our gas goes up another $2 or $3 a gallon, I guess that's how we pay it. But my goodness, I tell you what, sure was nice a year or two ago whenever we had all the fuel that we could handle, and we're exporting it to other countries. But let's talk about your board on Wednesday. February live cattle futures were down 70 cents at 143.05, and that's just about par with the little dab of trade that we've seen so far this week. April down $1.27 at 144.75. Your back months on live cattle down 25 cents to down 77. Your hogs have been higher through this unrest, and mostly due to fundamentals. But now we've seen it start to trip your technicals, but hogs continue to just thrive in their market. But we don't have a feeder pig futures. Of course, all the feeder pigs are owned by the pork processors, so I guess there's no need for us to see what they're doing there. How about the feeder cattle market? Your March feeder cattle down $1.45. I told you they were down hard. 162.77. April down 85 cents at 168.27. Your back months feeder cattle down 20 to down 97 cents. Talked about your grains. Corn was up just 9. That was the least gain there. Corn was up 9 cents. That used to have been a huge move, but sitting at 6.83 3/4. We're seeing cash prices for corn well over $7 all over, even the Midwest. And now we're looking at the futures maybe being over $7. But if you get much of a plus basis at all, you got $7 cash. Your beans up 40 cents at $16.75 a bushel. Wow. Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 31 3/4 cents, now sitting at 9.13 1/2 cents a bushel. Fat cattle trade, and I haven't seen a lot of it yet. We haven't really established our market. We may have established our dressed market at 227. That would be $1 higher. But your packers are really working to try to keep from having to pay, or keep them from having to pay a gain or a higher price this week for the third week in a row or so. But we haven't seen a lot of trade, and that kind of goes back to the relationship between the volume and the price. While we're wanting more negotiated volume because it seems to spawn higher prices, well, we're not seeing much volume here, and they're trying to work the price lower. They've got some. They'd be fairly short bought because they haven't been buying cattle for the 2 to 4 week delivery. So we kind of got them here, and we're in short supplies still. I have talked to some guys, mainly in Colorado and western Nebraska, that are getting backed up a little bit, and why they're not able to sell their cattle, I'm not sure. Maybe they've been too hard to trade with, and the packers are punishing them a little bit. But for the most part, in eastern Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, in Iowa, we're pretty current. But little to have a trade. Like I said, we haven't really established anything, but maybe that dress price at 227. But Iowa sold 1,800 head confirmed on Wednesday, just about 3,000 head for the week. 143 to 144 live and 227 dress. Both of those would be about $1 higher. Nebraska 1,600, less than 5,000 head so far this week negotiated. Live sales 144, dress sales 227. Kansas only 300 head confirmed, only about 700 head for the week. Any podunk sale barn would have had more cattle than that this week, but live price in Kansas just at 142, but I think it's going to take 143 or 4 to really swing the gates in the Southern Plains. Texas hasn't had any confirmed sales so far this week. How about a fat cattle auction on albeit light receipts, but it's no more than they're selling in the country. We can still talk about it. How about Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota? Light run due to the weather. Your average dressing steers and heifers selling from 144 to 150, 250 through the ring with competitive bidding and a negotiated price there. And like I said, it was a light run due to the weather, but and your smaller packers were struggling to get those cattle bought. But we saw a big premium to what they're paying in the country. How about a cow market? And the cow deal is really getting wild. Joplin Regional Stockyards got a good cow market every Wednesday, selling cows and bulls. They had a light run of only 375 head. They would normally be well over 500 or close to 1,000 head of cows and bulls. But your slaughter cows in Joplin, they got several cow buyers. The bulk average dressing cows brought from 72 to 83, with high dressing cows selling from 84 up to 95 cents, and the high dressing bulls selling from 110 all the way up to 127 on an individual red Simmental bull there that was described to me as a good bull but not a great bull, but went to slaughter at $1.27 a pound. My gosh, we're selling fat cattle for 142 to 144, and these big slaughter bulls bringing 127. Well, we had it inverted. select or choice select spread there on Tuesday, but on Wednesday they got it back right just barely. But choice cuts on Wednesday afternoon, 260.88, down 76 cents. Selects down 468 at 258.90. Your slaughter, they're trying to catch up a little bit, but Monday, just because it was President's Day, we had such a light harvest there that it's going to be disappointing for this week. But 354,000 through the first 3 days of the week. That's 12,000 less than last week, 9,000 less than the same week a year ago. If you want, let's talk about what else is going on. If you guys are looking for a livestock risk protection insurance policy, I tell you what, as volatile as things are, if you've got one of them and you're locked in on your background in cattle or your cattle that are in the feedlot, the cattle you're feeding, if you can go out there and you can pay a premium on there, you can get part of that back from the government. You don't have to worry about margin calls. You don't have to worry about what class of cattle you got. You don't have to worry about how many heads you got. You don't have to have square loads or square contracts there. But it's a really good way to manage your risk and for you to be able to sleep at night. But one of the professionals and specialists that we have doing that is Livestock Risk Services. And they're headquartered out of the Exchange building there in Oklahoma City. Get a hold of them at livestockriskservices.com. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index, brought to you by Margin Tracks by Midcon, sitting late in the day on Wednesday at 161.29. That was actually up 55 cents, all due to your big Northern Plains sales. I tell you what, at different times of the year we see your premium for Northern Plains, Northern quality cattle grow, and we're seeing that right now because your farmer feeders, they've got the advantage, and they're going to cash some of their high dollar crop in through the cattle. And they've always heard that high corn makes high cattle, so they're going to see if that's true. And they're just willing to pay a whole lot more than your commercial feedlots in the Southern Plains. That's why we saw the rise in your index price on Wednesday. Talk about some of your sales on Wednesday. Winter livestock, Dodge City, Kansas, had about 2,500 head there, despite the weather conditions. I would normally be talking about OKC West on this report, but they had their sale on Tuesday, both the calves and the yearlings on Tuesday, because of the storm that come through on Wednesday. I did drive right through that storm coming from Springfield, Missouri, down back home to the Texas Panhandle. It was pretty dicey from Springfield to OKC, but once you got past Oklahoma City, it's not bad at all. Of course, you're not going to have any moisture near in and around Amarillo area, so the closer you got to there, the drier it got, and no problem traveling there. But Dodge City, Kansas, 2,500 head. Feeders, $3 to $5 lower. Calves and stockers, $5 to $10 higher. That's what we've seen the last 2 or 3 weeks, but it just continues and gets progressively more in that direction. Bassett Livestock had a sale on Wednesday. Bassett, Nebraska, 3,300 head. Not a huge sale for them, but pretty darn good sale. It was mostly steady with that barn burner that they had a week ago, except for the 700-pound steers, which were sharply higher. Look at this automated marker report from Cattle Market Central through DV Auction there. And I'm gonna give you your best tested weights. You can follow with me if you want to. 218 head of your 5-weight steer calves in Bassett averaged 537 with a weighted average price of $219.29. They had one stick out bunch there, a load of them of 520-pound steers, bring $227.50. Now I told people they were doing a little check there at the BI meeting in Springfield on Tuesday night, and they said they asked me, well, what are we going to price these 500-pound steers to see what it's going to cost to worm them? And I said, flat 500-pound steers at $227, and the whole room just gasped at $227. Well, if they were in the Northern Plains, they wouldn't gasp at that. How about 946 head of your 6-weight steers in Bassett? Average weight 651, average price 191.90 on 6 weights, guys. 521 head of your 7-weight steer calves, Bassett, Nebraska. Average 738 pounds with a weighted average price of 179.48. Check out some heifers. 325 head of your 5-weight heifers, average 555, weighted average price 181.36, and 580 head of your 6-weight heifers, average 661 at 166.12. They did have some replacement quality heifers there that sold as replacements in Bassett. Those replacement heifers weighed from 650 to 750 and brought from 162 to 172. So pretty good premium there, but not steer price. But another stick-out deal that they had in Bassett, Nebraska was 87 head of 709-pound steers at 187 and a quarter. How about some other stick-out sales around the circuit there? Stockman's Livestock in Yankton, South Dakota, have a good feeder cattle sale too. How about 60 head of big old 926-pound steers at 159.75? How about Bloomfield, Iowa? At Bloomfield Livestock Market, that's the Schooley family there. They sold 67 head, 821-pound steers at 164.85. One of the few sales that had 8 weights, bringing in the 160s. Excuse me. How about Texhoma Livestock Exchange, Texhoma, Oklahoma? My friend Ashley Nolan there told me about Robert Lee's home-raised steers out of Guyman. 137 head of them, weighed 873 at 157.60. How about Hardin County Stockyards in Savannah, Tennessee? 2 loads, 570-pound steer calves at 187. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, National Beef Wire top quote for the day, come out of Torrington Livestock Markets, 144 head, 634-pound steer calves at 206. That's your feeder flash for Thursday.